If I ask you how many flights operate at Delhi airport in a day, what would you start with? Population or number of travelers? Like most people do with these two. But here's the catch, this is not the population problem. Just think about it, even if a million people wants to fly today, can the airport suddenly run a million flights? Of course not. So what actually limits the flights? So the first question that we have to work upon is, how do we break an airport into smaller manageable parts? First, I'm taking it through terminals. Delhi Airport, we are considering as an Indira Gandhi Airport, having three terminals: Terminal 1, Terminal 2, and Terminal 3. Terminal 1 and Terminal 2 handle mostly domestic flights, and Terminal 3 handles both international plus domestic flights. So instead of one big guess, we'll solve this guesstimate by terminals, right? The very next question that should come to your mind is, do airports operate at same speed all day? Is early morning busy? Is evening busy again? Or afternoon not so much? Maybe. So let's assume that there are some peak hours and there are some non-peak hours. Taking peak hours as 8 hours, approximately taking an average for all the three terminals, and similarly 16 as non-peak hours across all the three terminals. Now the very next question that comes to our mind is, how many flights each terminal can handle in hours? Then we'll multiply it with the hours that we have taken earlier, 8, 16, right? So terminal 1, we all know, is smaller. It has fewer gates, so the number of flights that it is handling would be less. Terminal 2 is still domestic, there are more gates and thus more flights per hour. Terminal 3, the biggest terminal, having the maximum gates, having the highest capacity. So now calculating flights per day. Now, Terminal 1, we are taking 20 flights per hour in peak hours and we had 8 hours. In non-peak hours, we are taking 50% occupancy. So in this, there would be 10 flights for 16 hours. Moving on, Terminal 2, it is much more bigger than Terminal 1. We are taking 25, then we are taking 12 as in non-peak hours and then in peak hours. Now moving on to Terminal 3, the biggest terminal, we are having both the domestic and the international flights. So for the domestic, we are taking 30 domestic flights per hour in peak hours and 20 in non-peak hours. Moving on to international, the number of flights are less because we have already discussed they are bigger flights and they take more time to take off, right? So we are taking in peak hours, there are 10 flights, and in non-peak hours, there are 5. Now further calculating, we get these numbers, and adding all of them, we get 1480 flights per day at a Delhi airport. So you might be thinking, is this exact? The answer to this, I would say, is no. But if you ask me, is it logic solid? I would say absolutely yes.